And here we have Larissa Klaudakis, who is going to explain her project on the Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka for English 3. It was a study of Gregor Samsa, the main character, as a metaphor. She will describe her creation using our rubric, and then she'll go into some of the thematic elements as well.
Okay, so I designed my Vermin Gregor to look like this, and each part has metaphorical meaning behind it. I'll go ahead and start with the legs. In the book, when he first wakes up, he is trying to stand up, but he doesn't know how weak his legs really are because he didn't know that he just went through this metamorphosis and was shocked at first. And so I designed my legs to look strong and sturdy. That's why they're big. But in reality, they're actually very weak, and he doesn't even use them on this to support them. So it's like juxtaposition to show that although our idea of what something may be like isn't actually how it is, because he thought that physically he could withstand the weight, but he physically could not, which he soon learns. So these are quite weak, but they give the appearance of being strong. His back is hard plastic with bumps, and I chose to use this as his back because in the book he woke up and he could not roll off of his back due to its hard surface. So this is hard plastic. However, I was able to find this plastic which also had bumps all over it, representing the different struggles that he went through in the book. The fact that he had to provide for his family, the fact that he couldn't now that he turned into a bug, that he also had wanted to help his sister go to violin school, but he could not. So all of these are like different representations of the different struggles that he had in the book. For his abdomen, although this was the back, I made the abdomen on the inside, since it was clear, show the words of his emotions, and I made that underneath his back and inside of his body because because in the book, he was unable to communicate these emotions that he felt, described by these adjectives, to all the other characters in the book because of this metamorphosis. Because he still had human emotions within a bug's body, and they were not able to see him always as that human that he was before, making it difficult for him to communicate these emotions, resulting in him having to hold them inside of him. I made his antennas out of music notes and suitcases because just as they show being alert, they also show like going out and trying his hardest, which is what Gregor Samsa did. He had perseverance, and he wanted to do this and he worked so hard so that he can try and send his sister to music school. So he worked very hard and showed that and really did to try and send his sister to music school. The thorax I left open because the thorax shows how he was susceptible to so much pain because a thorax in real life is usually a stinger or a protector on one's body, and because he was so new to having this metamorphosis and he was a new bug, and when he fell at first in the beginning of the book, he didn't know what was happening, that all these emotions flooded in. That's why it also connects to the abdomen. And now finally, this tape represents Band-Aids for all the damage that his parents and his family caused him emotionally and physically, that this metamorphosis caused his parents to act like this, but his parents were the people to directly give him his parents and his sister were the people to directly give him this harm. So this represents all the different emotions and all the different metaphors that each piece represents tied together because it all ties back to the metamorphosis in the end. It's the reasoning for all the changes, all the struggles in the entire book. And so his head is an apple because simply his dad did hit him with an apple, threw it at him in the book. However, this, since it's an apple and naturally it decays, the decaying effect of an apple also can tie into how he ends up dying in the end. So just as an apple would turn into a shrub and eventually just disintegrate into like dirt and whatnot, then this also just shows how he ends up dying in the end. And the apple, I covered it in a clear coat so that that technically would not happen in the classroom, and that is juxtaposition as well in the book to show that as much as he is trying to preserve his life, you know, in the end, an apple does decay. And so that's juxtaposition in itself. So thank you.
Thank you. You want to go through a couple of the themes? Just tell us a little bit about the themes with those.
So we have the themes in all of them. There were three main themes that I was able to pick up from the book, and that was the sever between mind and body, the isolation that he felt, that Gregor Samsa felt mentally and physically, and how this one event, in this case the metamorphosis, could change one's life. I'm going to start with the metamorphosis itself changed his life, but in a broader sense, since a theme is something that can be applied to outside of the book and elsewhere, one thing can change one person's life. In other stories, that is a theme. And in this case, it was the metamorphosis. It changed his life to not only change his looks physically, but it changed the entire dynamic, the relationship dynamic that he had between his parents and his sister, and in the end, his living dynamic. He was not able to live with them because they didn't understand and see him as the person he was before, partially because he could not communicate his emotions like a human as he was before because of the metamorphosis. This one change that happened to him affected how his relationships were, affected how he had to live, affected everything, and in the end killed him. So then we have what led up to this was after the metamorphosis, but before his death was his isolation mentally and physically. Because of the metamorphosis, he felt isolated, hence the words that describe this on the inside. He felt isolated inside of his room because he could not connect to his family anymore. So that emotionally made him feel isolated. Physically, he couldn't do anything that he could before as a human. He was not even eating the same stuff. He couldn't eat human food anymore because he physically changed. This metamorphosis caused him to feel isolated because it ended up making his parents treat him differently, his sister treat him differently, landing up with him depressed, and then eventually dying as well. The sever between his mind and body was simply, once again, because of the metamorphosis. He was unable to connect what he felt and convey those feelings to his parents throughout the entire book, through to his parents, to his sister, and it just ended in pure death, which once again will be shown with the apple as the head, which naturally is known to decay.
Thank you, Larissa.